If you swap out these 5 lightweight alternatives, you can save 3 to 4 pounds in your pack weight.
Ooh la la.
And the best part, we're not talking about spending hundreds of dollars on extreme ultralight gear. All of these alternatives are actually cheaper than their heavier versions. So let's check them out.
Hooray!
Hey y'all, my name is Adam and welcome to Dad Camps. I'm a dad that likes to get outdoors and talking about all the gear that goes with it. If you like that too, please hang out and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting close. If you haven't subscribed yet, please help me out. Help me get to that mark so I can get monetized and keep putting out these videos. All right, the first item I'm going to talk about is actually 2 items. It is a pair of Crocs. Now don't get me wrong, I love me some Crocs. I wear these around the place all the time. My wife hates them, but I still keep them because they're so comfortable and convenient and functional and all of that stuff. And I love taking them out on the boat. I think they're perfect for that when you need like a closed toe alternative. However, I cannot get my head around taking these backpacking. These add about 1.5 pounds to your pack weight. And for something that's, you know, pretty much a luxury item, there's usually very little actual functional use to this other than, you know, having something comfortable to wear around camp at night. Usually the way I see people carrying them, and I'd say I see about 1/4 of backpackers wearing these, and I just cannot understand rationalizing this, because usually, you know, they just clip these on the outside of their pack and then they just bounce around. And so you've got 1.5 pounds, you know, weighing you down on the far outside of your pack, and the weight's loose and moving, and so it's gonna like pull on you and, you know, cause you to bounce around. And I don't understand the point. Instead, do this. Get you a pair of super cheap, super thin, lightweight flip-flops. I got these years ago at Old Navy, and you can barely make out the Old Navy there. There you go. And I think I paid $2 for these on a clearance one day, and these things have held up great. But you could find other versions of these online. These weigh about 6 ounces, which saves you a little bit over 1 pound compared to carrying these monsters around. And these will fit easily inside your pack, or, you know, in one of the sleeves on the side or something like that. They don't take up any room. And so I have loved having these, and they make a really great camp shoe. It's really all you need it for, is to like be able to walk around on rocks and sticks and stuff. Actually, I was able to find these on Old Navy's website still, and right now they were on sale for $4 when I checked. I'll put the link in the description below so you can check it out for yourself. But some people don't prefer to have the thong strap there because it's usually cold at night in camp and you want to keep your socks on. To me, it doesn't bother me to like wedge my sock up in there and, you know, just wear these with socks, and it's been totally fine. But if you're the kind of person that bothers you and you just can't stand to have something between your toes there, then there is a version on Garage Grown Gear, and I'll put a link in the description, of the Ultralight Mayfly sandals. These things are 1.8 ounces, and I've never used these things because I've been happy with my clearance Old Navy flip-flops, but cost I think $38. They have the strap that goes over the top of the toes, so you don't have that problem with the socks. So there you go, another very valid option, and still cheaper than Crocs, I believe. All right, next up is the infamous Jetboil. And this thing, I've used this thing for over a dozen years. It's gotten a lot of use, and I like it for certain uses. But I definitely think that this has become such a standard in backpacking that a lot of people don't consider alternatives. And if all you're doing is boiling water, then you should definitely consider an option more like this, where you have the Toaks titanium cookpot with the BRS 3000 stove. If you haven't seen one of these yet, these things are crazy small, crazy light. Kind of feels like it's gonna break in your hand, but it hasn't yet. And this thing costs $18 on Amazon. Folds out just like so. And it's going to be a little bit less efficient than the Jetboil, but this is going to boil water for you just perfectly fine. And so this whole setup is going to be less than half the cost of the Jetboil, and it's going to save you up to 12 ounces depending on the model of Jetboil that you have. I've got a full video breakdown of the pros and cons of which one you would want to consider between these alternatives. So make sure and hit subscribe if you want to see that. I'm going to be going in depth on when you would want to use each one of these and the pros and cons of those. And another bonus alternative you might consider here is if you're just going for like an overnight, when you're factoring fuel in, this is the smallest size fuel can you could buy for the Jetboil. And so you're going to be bringing a lot of extra weight there that you're not really going to need for an overnight and morning coffee. So you could bring something like this, which is an emergency Esbit stove. You're gonna be saving another 6 ounces off of bringing a fuel can like this, and you just bring a few Esbit tabs. Again, less efficient on boiling the water because it's gonna take a little bit longer to boil with one of these. But again, if you're just going for an overnight and you wanna try to go super light, solid option, super cheap. So again, make sure you subscribe for that Jetboil BRS 3000 video. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be doing a comparison of the efficiency of each and diving into some tips and tricks and hacks that I have on those as well. All right, next up, anybody that knows me at all knows that I love having some whiskey when I get to camp. So even when I'm backpacking, I'm always bringing some container with some whiskey in it to enjoy around the campfire or, sitting outside my tent at night. But the only problem is flasks are heavy. This one weighs 7.5 ounces with nothing in it. Just a standard flask. This one's 8 ounces. And it's functional and effective. It is compact and it fits in nicely and it's not gonna leak or break or anything like that. So those are the pros to it, but there's definitely much lighter options. So I've got a bit of a good, better, best alternatives, 3 different alternatives for you here. So we'll start with the good, okay? All right, you could bring one of these 375 milliliter plastic bottles that they sell at the liquor store. You could buy some Jack Daniels in it or whatever. Buy one of these, use it, and fill it up with the liquor of your choosing. This thing only weighs 1.5 ounces. Right there, you're already saving 6 ounces off of bringing a metal flask. A couple of problems with this one is that it could crack, it could break, or it could unscrew on you a little bit and leak out. Funny story, a buddy of mine actually had that happen on our glacier trip last summer, and the night before we were taking off on the trail, stuck his bottle of whiskey in his pack. Something happened and it leaked out overnight, and somehow this thing got loose and it leaked out in his pack overnight. So as we're taking off into grizzly country, he's walking in with a backpack that's soaked, smelling like bourbon. And as you may or may not know, Glacier is big time bear country, both black and brown bears. And so the first night we got into camp, we actually had to hoist his whole backpack up into a tree in order to make sure that it was, bear safe. So definitely a couple drawbacks to carrying this. One last one is that even once the whiskey is gone, it still maintains that same shape, obviously, and size. And so you're still having to pack that same amount of space in your pack. So to fix that problem, you could go with a soft flask. And so this is one that Hydro Pack makes. And this one is a little bit bigger. So this is a 500 milliliter, 17 ounces flask. So this one can hold 125 more milliliters than, the half bottle can. This one weighs 1.2 ounces, half an ounce lighter than the half bottle. But the difference is that this one is collapsible, and so it does take up a little bit less space. Once you've actually had all the whiskey, then you can roll this thing up and makes it kind of nice and compact, easier to pack. So that's pretty handy. And these are about $20. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check that out. And last but certainly not least, my best option that I've discovered is from Platypus. And it is the Platypus Platy Preserve. And this thing is literally paper thin. And this is actually designed to be a portable wine bottle. It holds 800 milliliters and can hold an entire bottle of wine in this thing. And it's super lightweight. And this weighs even less than the other two alternatives, under 1 ounce for this thing. And it's even cheaper. So this is about $12, I believe. I'll put a link to this one as well if you're interested. Oh, and this one is designed to carry liquor, which I'm not sure if this one is or not. So you might end up with some odors or something like this over time in the Hydro Pack one. This one is not, and it's dishwasher safe, and it will not retain any kind of odors from the liquor after washing, of course. Obviously, this has the same kind of compactability. Once you have drained it, then folds up very nice and compact, doesn't take up any room in your pack. I'd say the only con to this one, you're gonna be tempted to bring more whiskey. So that may have its own pros and cons, but it's gonna be heavier, obviously, with the more whiskey you take. But the faster you drink it, the lighter your pack gets. So I think that's a win-win if I ever saw one. All right, item number 4. Let's talk about chairs. All right, so backpacking chairs typically weigh around 2 pounds. On the higher end, these weigh 1 pound each. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of bringing chairs. I've splurged the big bucks on Helinox Chair Zero, and I also have the REI FlexLight Air. And if you want to see my thoughts on these chairs, I've got a whole other video comparing these. But if you can't afford that yet, or don't want to spend that extra money to get down to a pound, or don't want that extra weight penalty of carrying an extra 2 pounds to be able to bring a chair, I've got an alternative for you. Bring a sit pad, but not just any sit pad. Bring an inflatable one. This is the Climate V Seat. This weighs about 2.5 ounces. It's about $15. Sometimes free. Climate is often offering a free deal, pretty much just for like giving them your email address or as like a free bonus item if you order something else or something like that. So that's how I got this one. And I have loved this thing. It obviously packs up super small, lightweight. It's approximately the same weight as like the Z Seat or the foldable foam pads. But in my opinion, this blows those out of the water. Easy to blow up. Let me blow this up for you real quick. One breath. And there you go. Kind of get an idea of the V-seat pattern there. It's basically just a very miniature version of their sleeping pads, which I'm also a pretty big fan of. And being that this is inflatable, it's way more comfortable than the Z-seat or the foam pads. These I can actually sit on for a long time and not have my butt get tired or my legs go to sleep or whatever. I've taken these things out on hunting trips when I've been sitting and glassing for a long time when I couldn't spare the weight to bring a chair. I also love this because it serves dual purpose as a knee pillow. I'm a side sleeper, and so I love having this to be able to throw down in my sleeping bag at night and have a little bit extra padding between my knees. So obviously carrying this, compared to even carrying the lightest chairs on the market, it's gonna save you at least a pound, potentially up to 2 pounds, depending on the type of chair that you might be bringing. All right, last but not least is a ground cloth. Instead of bringing a ground cloth, just don't. You don't need one. I mean, most of the time. So, if you absolutely must, like you're going to be going out into really rough terrain, somewhere really rocky or lots of sharp sticks or something like that you're expecting where you can't like get any kind of flat ground that you can clean off or anything like that, then at least get some Tyvek or at least get some kind of Tyvek type material. Don't buy the expensive ground cloths from the manufacturers. Waste of money, in my opinion. This super cheap Tyvek is lighter weight, much, much cheaper, and does the job even better, in my opinion. But the last couple years, I've been going without it. And tossing that saves you at least 6 ounces, depending on the tent, somewhere in that neighborhood. That fits my one-person Nemo Hornet. And that weighs about 6 ounces. So leaving that at home, you're dropping almost half a pound by leaving something at home that, in my opinion, it's unnecessary. I've been taking my Nemo Hornet out without it for a couple of years now and haven't had any problems. And it's actually one of the like lighter weight type materials that it's made of. But as long as you're just careful where you set up your tent site and make sure that there's no sharp sticks or rocks underneath it, you're going to be just fine. And so just save yourself the weight and leave it at home. All right, a little bit of a cheat there because the alternative was nothing, but I had to think of 5 things because, 4 alternatives didn't really sound good. So there you go. 5 alternatives that will lighten your load, cost you less, and help you have a more enjoyable time in the backcountry. And if you want more lightweight backpacking tips, check out this other video I made of 22 backpacking hacks that all weigh under 1 ounce each. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, you got this, Dad.